Do you still decorate your wedding with swans and admire the loyalty and devotion of these birds? What if all this is not true? What if we say that the swan is an incredibly dangerous creature, and in fact, swans are killing machines? And the experts who study them simply take bribes from them to keep quiet. In this video you will learn the whole truth about swans. And also in this video we will show you the birds who decided to take revenge on people for destroying their home. Watch and listen. What do we know about the swan? A beautiful bird, a symbol of fidelity, a real tyrant of reservoirs. What? The last point does not fit in with the noble image of a bird? Well, it's time to tell you the whole truth about these birds, because swans are not as white and innocent as you probably think. Okay, the color of their plumage is really snow white, but you definitely cannot call these birds peaceful. Let's start with the fact that a swan is not just a small duck. In such a bird there are 10 to 15 kilos of weight, and the wingspan is 2 meters. A real titan among neighboring waterfowl. Such a giant will not only stand up for himself, but will rebuff anyone who deserves it. The only problem is that troubles can be earned in the presence of a swan absolutely undeservedly. The stately bird is in fact a cruel neurotic with a quarrelsome character. Any extra movement is regarded by the birds as a reason for a fight. And the swan has a lot of power. Not only does this feathered bandit pinch much more violently and stronger than geese, but with the blows of its wings it can easily break even a person's bones. Moreover, both dangerous predators, such as foxes, and harmless neighbors, such as ducks and geese, fall under the hot wing. Pets also can be attacked. Walking with your pets near the reservoirs, be careful not to let them near the swans. But in the spring, the swans go completely crazy, because at this time they acquire chicks. For their own children, the feathered ones are ready to kill any animal within the radius of action. Neither the quality nor the number of opponents will stop them on their way to total lawlessness. Many pond dwellers simply cannot survive this great carnage. Swans will drown, kill or expel all ducks with ducklings or geese simply for the fact of their neighborhood. Not only do swans drown goslings, but they also periodically eat them. In short, in one word, horror. And this holiday of unprecedented aggression can be arranged by just one duet. And imagine what kind of ensemble they will arrange with a grouping of several dozen individuals. A pond or lake will be instantly occupied by a gang of elegant thugs. The rest of the inhabitants will only have to flee cowardly or die with honor. By the way, a swan can not only break a person's bones, he is quite capable of even drowning someone. This is exactly what happened to one poor fellow from England when a mute swan pushed him out of his canoe and did not allow him to swim to the shore. The swan continued to attack him from above, preventing him from surfacing, causing the man to drown. Well, how do you like this image of a romantic bird? Now let's move on to the Moluccan ibises. Adapt, improvise, overcome is the motto not only of Bear Grylls, but of any other animal. They constantly have to adapt to the changing world and look for non-trivial ways out of difficult situations. People add fuel to the fire. Now you have to survive in conditions that do not exist in nature in principle. Some do it well, some do it so-so. And there are those who also manage to take revenge on people for oppression. Here, for example, the Moluccan ibises. From time immemorial, they lived without grief throughout southeastern Australia and on a whole bunch of islands. Under normal conditions, ibises form colonies of thousands of individuals. Not a single predator is capable of causing serious harm to a flock. You can simply fly away from ground meat eaters, and air hunters themselves do not risk attacking. there are few animals who want to compete with a carcass of 75 centimeters. Yes, most of the body is occupied by legs and neck, but predators do not need to know this, right? In America and Indonesia, our guys are doing well to this day, but in Australia, there are problems. In the 1970s, local farmers began draining the swamps, which are home to fish, reptiles, freshwater crayfish, and insects with snails, all the things ibises feed on. The long-term drought also superimposed on the human factor. Even swamps untouched by people began to dry up by themselves. The ibises were crowded in the disappearing swamps, and they scattered in all directions. Despair and hunger dulled the fear of the city. Already in 1971, birds began to visit the outskirts of settlements to eat at local dumps. So not far from the dumps, nests began to appear. Moluccan ibises are able to concoct them anywhere, on the ground, on a tree, even on the roof of a barn. Ibis replenish their composition quickly. In one batch there are 3 to 4 chicks. For 3 weeks they marinate in the shell, and after a month and a half, the young are ready to fly out of their nest. The cutest picture, isn't it? So the locals thought so and did not drive the birds from the landfills. Oh, if only they knew how things would change in 50 years. For half a century, animals finally overcame their fear of noisy streets and settled in a whole bunch of cities, including Sydney. The size and physical strength allowed them to take food even from seagulls, well-known robbers and beggars. In recent years, the bird diaspora has become so obsessed that it began to steal food directly from open cafes and fast foods. And the funny thing is that there is absolutely nothing the authorities can do about it. Due to the destruction of the natural habitat, the species is under the threat of death, and the mass extermination of ibis will only aggravate the situation. Attempts to drive the birds out or take them away have completely failed. Smart birds easily get used to new irritants and find their way to their favorite dump even if they are transported thousands of kilometers from home. The Australians have reclaimed vast areas from nature, but they did so in typical human fashion, without thinking too much about the consequences. Well, they themselves are to blame for this problem. What do you think? Write in the comments. Two merry geese lived with Granny. And if the birds themselves enjoyed life, those around in the presence of these birds cannot be called happy. Anyone who has ever been in a village knows for sure that a goose is not just a farm bird, but also an unprincipled tyrant. To awaken a demon in a bird, just wave your hand in its direction. As soon as the bright orange paws begin to mince faster and the long neck stretches forward to a loud hiss, there is only one chance to escape. Run. Those who were not saved by their feet will face cruel punishment. Pinching all accessible parts of the body is just the beginning of the program. With strong wings, the bird will inflict painful blows. And if you irritate the goose to the maximum, it can even knock a person down. It will fly onto the stranger's back and start pounding on the head with all its might. And after all, a goose sometimes plucks no worse than a dog. Bruises from feathered attacks go away for weeks, and all because it actually has teeth. Let biologists say that they were created in order to grind grass, but we know that the birds themselves use them for one more purpose: to punish the innocent. Why is this feathered wonder so aggressive? It's not about its demonic nature, but its wild nature. First, geese are territorial birds. Even if you're walking in your own garden, the feathered one will regard this as an invasion. And explaining to the goose about the legal subtleties on the housing issue is a senseless and dangerous business. Secondly, ganders have a duty to protect their females. In addition, it never hurts to play a hero in front of them once again. But things get even worse when goslings are born. Here the poultry completely loses its mind, including both fathers and mothers. How to deal with them? Maybe an exorcism would help. No, everything is much simpler and fits into 3 short rules. Don't provoke the goose, even a little, even if it's a joke. Don't touch the goslings, children are sacred. And if something goes wrong, run.